Hello, I'm Joni Ernst. I'm Iowa's junior senator, and I am joined today by my good friend Tango Charlie, Senator
Colonel.
Senator Tom Carper of Delaware.
Great to be with you.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Today, I think we'll go down memory lane a little bit and share our thoughts about what happened on 9/11. An important time for us to remember. So, Tango Charlie, if you wouldn't mind, just maybe tell me where you were when that happened and
Well, thanks
your
very
thoughts.
much for inviting me to join on a
my
special
pleasure.
day. I was riding on a train. I go back and forth on a train a lot, as Joe Biden did, Bill Roth before them, Mike Castle. And we live in Delaware, and I was 15 years ago on the train coming to D.C., down around Baltimore, and doing what I call day-ahead call with my staff. They were in D.C., and they're briefing me on the day that lie ahead. And about halfway through our conversation, someone said on my staff, a plane has flown into the World Trade Center. And there earlier, a year or two earlier, had been a small plane that had been done something like that and flown into a building. I thought, oh, some pilot, some crazy pilot that was flying where they should not have been. And as it turned out, I said, well, that's too bad. And finished our call, and about 15 minutes later, they called back and said another plane has flown into the other World Trade Center. And right then we knew that the world had changed. And I got off the train, the Union Station, that morning, and you could hear the airplanes they had. We'd launched aircraft to do air cover. And you could hear the jets flying up in the air. As it turned out, one of the aircraft, the one didn't make it to its target, but crashed in Pennsylvania in a farm field. Was apparently headed for the Capitol. But they had everybody leave the Capitol, and I literally came up Delaware Avenue, heading toward the Capitol, and you hear the planes, and then off in the distance we heard a loud explosion, and I think it was a fuel depot going up at the Pentagon, following the crash there. And that was, and I came into the Hart Building, my office in the Hart Building. Everybody was running out. I went in and watched television for a while just to see what was going on. And the end of the day, we ended the day of incredible turmoil and angst and anguish with a prayer vigil on the steps of the Capitol. Democrats and Republicans, arm in arm, praying. And I thought to myself, what a great way to respond for our nation, to set an example from many one.
That's great.
And
Right.
we need that. We need to recapture that spirit.
Right, absolutely. And I know you served in the Navy. I call you Tango Charlie. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience too, just your service? Because I think we saw a surgence of pride in America following that terrible, terrible day. I think our enemies, those that did this terrible, terrible incident, those that orchestrated it, really wanted to tear America apart. But we ended up coming together, I think, in a unifying manner that maybe perhaps they had seen that during World War II, too.
I think what the Taliban and Al-Qaeda wanted to do was to, as you say, pull us apart and turn us against one another. And that's what a lot of our enemies have wanted to do over the years. That's what they want to do right now.
Right.
But we can't let them do that. I was a naval flight officer, P-3 aircraft mission commander later on. We flew a lot of missions in Southeast Asia in my squadron. So land-based aircraft, the P-3 would fly 10 and 12-hour missions. Surveillance missions off the coast of Vietnam and Cambodia. We're looking for little infiltrator trawlers trying to get in and resupply the Viet Cong, and we weren't doing that. We would just chase Soviet nuclear submarines all over the world, and did that for off and on for 5 years. And when that was over, resigned from my regular commission, took a reserve commission, and moved to Delaware.
Yeah.
And enrolled in business school there, and up at Willow Grove Naval Air Station, like an hour and a half away north of Philadelphia. They were just getting Navy P-3 airplanes to replace the old P-2s. And I showed up about a week after I got to Delaware, and I said, one weekend, I said, I'm a P-3 aircraft mission commander. And they said, you're just what we've been looking for.
Very good.
So they let me join them, and I flew with them for 18 years.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Well, I love that. And
how about you?
And
tell us about it.
Well, thank you.
Your service.
I joined the service after a trip to Ukraine. Just saw that in Ukraine at that time, part of the Soviet Union, Americans experienced such freedom and opportunity, and I thought, I'm not satisfied just enjoying those liberties that I have. I need to defend those. And so I joined Army ROTC in
Did you go to the Ukraine in college?
Yes,
Okay.
between my freshman and
Why did you
sophomore
go
year.
to Ukraine? What took you there?
It was an agricultural exchange, but the people in Ukraine in the
That's right,
Soviet
you're from
Union,
Iowa.
from Iowa, yes.
They have farms. We have farms in Delaware.
We do, chickens.
Chickens,
We
a
have
lot of
chickens
them.
in common,
Yes.
a lot. But they just weren't able to experience the same types of opportunities that we do in the United States, and I thought it was important to defend that. And so when September 11th happened, we were just moving into our home in Iowa. My husband served in the Army for 28 years, and
Wow.
he had just retired. So I remember being in the basement, and my neighbor called, and she said, "Joni, you need to see what's on television." So I ran and turned the TV on, and that's when we saw the second plane then was hitting the World Trade Center. And not long after that, the phone rang again. I thought maybe it's another neighbor calling. But it was the Iowa Army National Guard. They were calling. They were doing a 100% notification and check to find out where we were. They didn't know what was going on. I don't think any of us understood what was happening. And they just needed to make sure they could get a hold of us if we were to be called up for protection of whatever assets in the state of Iowa. So that then triggered many, many years of Iowa National Guard involvement overseas in the War on Terror. But again, I think the actions on that day, we had enemies that wanted to tear us apart, and that didn't happen. We saw such unity. We saw flags going up all over our communities. It was remarkable. It was remarkable, the strength and resolve.
We had a number of people who were from Delaware, whose families were from Delaware, who were on the airplanes that crashed. And in most cases, not as passengers, but as crew members.
Right.
And we had memorial services in our state. And we had one fellow from Newark, Delaware, where the University of Delaware is, who was a petty officer, second class, Navy weatherman, serving in the Pentagon. Can you think of a safer job?
Wow. In the Pentagon.
Weatherman. And he died. He did in that crash. But we would have these memorial services up and down our state. And I would go to those and oftentimes lead people in reciting the 23rd Psalm. Ooh, so moving. So moving.
Very moving, very moving. And I think it's just important that we understand we won't forget September 11th. We won't forget those wonderful Americans that went to their jobs that morning and didn't return home. We won't forget them, and we certainly won't forget those servicemen that have given their life on the War on Terror as well.
Yeah. Well, this is a nation that took on the greatest nation in the world, the Brits, beat them not once, War of Independence, again in 1812. We survived the Civil War, we survived the Great Depression, won World War I, World War II, the Cold War. We can get through all that. We can get through this. The key, as you say, from many one, from many one to be united. That's it.
United. Thanks so much. Tango Charlie, thank you.
Colonel.
Thank you very
Thanks your work.
much. Appreciate it a lot.